Hello and welcome to Searching for Service, brought to you by Rotary District 5950 and 5960. I am Kelly Kirk.
And I'm Joe Kirk.
And I'm Chad Larson.
We got all three of us today. Super fun and exciting. Before we dive into who our guest is today, though, Joe is going to remind us of our show's purpose.
Awesome. The purpose of the show is to expose Rotarians and non-Rotarians to service opportunities. And we do that by having amazing guests on that highlight incredible organizations, projects, and then things that Rotary does. And, ironically, we believe that Rotary is the best vehicle for delivering service. And the show also is an amazing educational device for all people that are looking to be educated about Rotary. We have shows about everything so far. And so check out our library of shows. It's over 50 now. So, we're excited about that.
It's a good plug. Nice job, Joseph Kirk. Appreciate you. So we have yet again another amazing guest. And so we have joining us today, Erin Bagniewski, who is the Executive Director of Africa Strong. She's also a fellow Rotarian, a member of Minneapolis University Rotary Club, or also known as MERC. Welcome, Erin. We're happy to have you.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
We're excited to hear some stories of the volunteer work that you do with Africa Strong and how you got to become a Rotarian as well. And so really in this first section, we love to get to know our guests. So I'm going to ask the first question. Where do you live?
I am based here in Minneapolis. I've been in my condo about 19 years now, even though I leave it every once in a while for long durations.
Beautiful. And so have you always been in the Twin Cities, Minnesota region?
I grew up in La Crosse, Wisconsin, but crossed the border for college and have stayed here in Minnesota outside of my travels ever since.
Hold on.
I knew I noticed something very similar amongst you two.
Hold on a second. I'm from La Crosse, Wisconsin.
Seriously.
I am. Now, we can talk offline, but I do have to ask, did you go to Logan or Central?
Central.
Okay, this is why we don't know each other. I'm just kidding.
The North and the South.
There is a clear-cut division between the North and the South. Now we know that there's a clear-cut division between Minneapolis and St. Paul. So we're like familiar with it. So we're in tune with it. All right, you guys, your turn. You get to go ahead and ask Erin a question.
So you brought you across to go to school here. When did you get started? And tell us a little bit how you got involved with Rotary.
I started my Rotary experience in 2017 when I lived in Uganda. Wow. So after a 16-year career in consulting and 12 years of corporate America, one day I said, I resign. And within about 2 months, I was on a plane to Zambia and did a 6-week volunteer and community development program. So spent a lot of time in school, and Africa just got in my blood, and education's always been in my heart and a passion, and came back not knowing what I was going to do. And thankfully, through some networking, got a job with Health Partners, moved to Uganda, ultimately ran their field office, and lived there for a little over a year. And a way to integrate myself, got involved in Rotary. So went to a Rotary meeting and kept going, and eventually got talked into joining club there, which the rest is kind of history.
That's cool.
Cool. That is so cool.
That's probably the most.
I would say so. Yeah, definitely a unique circumstance. And so you were working with Health Partners over, like, I'm very fascinated with your story. So you cut the ties with corporate America. It sounds like. What was kind of like the straw that broke the camel's back for you?
Yeah, it was always able to tie my work to a greater purpose, impact for people, even though I was at a company with 300,000 plus individuals. Whether I was improving a hiring process to make individuals feel like a valued employee versus a number, or helping a cancer nurse feel like she could spend time talking to a patient who was newly diagnosed versus worrying about the documentation in a system.
Mhm.
And was moving into a new role that the organization was helping create, to create change and provide a new challenge for me. And I just couldn't make that connection. And
Mm.
so one day I said I quit about a week before the transition was supposed to happen. And everyone said, "What? We just created this new role for you and we're creating change." And I said, "Yeah, I really need change." And they're like, "Yeah, that's why we're creating this new role." And I said, "No, I'm going to Africa to volunteer." And so it kind of sunk in the drastic change that I needed and what I was looking for, and something more. And that kind of started the journey of now the last 7 years of service being a very important part of my life.
Do you remember what your first service project was when you joined Rotary?
Well, she was already.
In Uganda, I think the first thing I did was probably unpack a container of books from Books for Africa. And things kind of end up going full circle because I'm now a board member at Books for Africa and working on fundraising for a container of books to go to Uganda. So yes, it kind of ironic how it all kind of went full circle there.
See how good that question was, guys? You guys mocked the question.
I did not mock the
I
question.
didn't.
No. I thought it was
She's
good.
volunteering then.
I will say though, Erin, it's very admirable for you a week out from having that transition happen, going, it's not aligning with my values, my core values, the very essence of who I am. And so for that reason, bye.
Take note, corporate America.
Yeah, it may start to happen a little, and all too often you just find people who kind of continue down the path thinking that, something could potentially change, or they may be able to get a little bit of spark from it. But, you just decided, I'm not going to even take the risk. It's good.
Or took the big risk.
Yes.
I was
Yeah.
gonna
I'm
say,
gonna
that
take
was the
that
risk.
was the big risk. Yeah,
Look at
that's very true. Yeah.
What when you first volunteered over there, when you went, what was it? Was it healthcare related? Because what was the first trip that you took over there before you became a vegetarian?
Yeah. First thing I did, it was about 6 weeks after I ended my job at United, and I was in Livingston, Zambia, and doing a teaching and community development volunteer program. And so was in a community school, which is run by teachers that maybe get paid $10 a month. And so the teacher really is never in the classroom. And so my first experience was showing up at school day one and a classroom of 60 fifth graders, no teacher. Day two, teacher walks in, writes a math problem on the board, solves it, writes maybe 4 other math problems for the students to solve, and leaves. And I had students asking me for help and showing me the answer. And eventually I was telling them if it was the right answer. And so, of course, then the neighbor starts copying down the right answer and coming up to me. And I'm like, well, how did you get that answer? Let's sit down and talk through it. Let's show me your work and how you got there. And at this point, the teacher returns and accuses me of helping the students cheat. And it was just such a mind-blowing experience because I just questioned how these children ever have an opportunity to succeed and how they're learning and how they know what they already know, given how little they're being taught. And I didn't necessarily fault the teacher because the teacher really isn't being paid and isn't trained to be there to support teaching the students to begin with. They have no materials. There was no chalk. The chalkboard, even if you had chalk, couldn't be written on. And so the learning conditions just were something that I had never experienced or expected to experience, and have always had a passion for education. And that's where I kind of learned that I didn't have to be a teacher to have an impact on the education system and the education of young children. So it was the start of kind of the journey I've been on the last 7 years.
Yeah. You're hitting a chord for me, as education is my background. I'm not doing much with that anymore, but I'm helping people learn about mortgages. So there's still an education component
Good.
to it, but you know, in the short amount of time that I did work in the education system, you know, you in hearing a story like that, as compared to like what the education system looks like here in the state of Minnesota, for instance, or even nationwide for that matter, we have a really nice platform. Not all things are created equal, but definitely hitting a chord for me right now. It's sad. It's really sad. But
Yeah, I
When you first went,
remember. Oh, go ahead.
no, finish.
I was going to say, I remember telling a student to take out their pencil and start doing the assignment. And shame on me, the kid didn't have a pencil. And that would have never crossed my mind. And no other student wanted to lend the kid a pencil, because if they did, that meant their pencil disappeared that much faster.
Wow.
So just the basic things that we take for granted every day. And the pens I collect all the time that I am just laying around.
Oh my
that
gosh. I
could get
know, like
such high demand.
our that's wild. It's simply wild. So
Mhm.
How was your first land over there? Was it a challenge? I'm sure all the transportation but just tell us more about even that first journey to get to the first day.
actually, I think let's hold off
Oh, my goodness.
and we'll save it for the next segment.
Way to
Erin.
tee that one up.
As a reminder, you are listening to Searching for Service. I'm Kelly Kirk.
I'm Joe Kirk.
And I'm Chad Larson. We'll be back.
Hello, and welcome back to Searching for Service, brought to you by Rotary District 5950 and 5960. I'm Kelly Kirk.
I'm Joe Kirk.
And I'm Chad Larson.
As a reminder, you can find us on your favorite podcast platforms, and
You can find us by looking up Searching for Service. Like, subscribe, all that good jazz too.
Love 5-star reviews. You can also find us on YouTube on the Searching for Service page.
we're trying to get all of it in. It's a mouthful. Holy cow. If you are tuning in for the first time, we have Erin Bagniewski on here as our special guest. She's the executive director of Africa Strong and also a fellow Rotarian over at MERC, which stands for Minneapolis University Rotary Club. Welcome back, Erin. So we ended with a
Quite the
question.
cliffhanger.
Of a huge cliffhanger. And we're gonna pose the question again. So go ahead, Chad.
So I was asking, to get to that first day of class that you were there, I'm sure there was a lot of nerves, but also a lot of travel. Just tell us about how difficult it is to even get to where you can have the impact that you had.
Yeah. First time going to Zambia, it was through an organization. And so I had someone meet me at the airport, and they were there with a sign, and we lived in a shared community house. And so had drivers taking us places, and essentially chaperones living with us. So it was very well organized and had a support system around. So that was actually easier than when I lived in Uganda. Arriving in Uganda for the first time, I traveled with the director from the program here in the US. But then once she traveled back, I was on my own and living in a country without a car, within walking distance to work, but not really to the central market to buy food. There were a few places near me that I could buy from little markets, but not major grocery store or anything like that. And so learning to find a safe boda driver and communicate where English wasn't always the first language. And I did not learn the local language because there were too many, and everyone kind of moved around. So you never knew if I was going to be speaking the right local language. And so living in Uganda and getting around was definitely a lot harder without a car than organized transportation in Zambia.
It's so fascinating, just like hearing of, okay, I've made this trip, right? But those finite details often play a really vital part in how that trip can, go, whether it's smoothly or not smoothly.
My longest flight took 50 hours, and 24 hours in, I was still in New York.
Wow.
Thank you, COVID testing.
50 hours?
Yes.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just a walk in the park.
Yeah.
Struggle with that.
Oh my God.
So I do want to highlight the fact that so you're an executive director with Africa Strong. I think it'd be important for our listeners to understand first and foremost what is Africa Strong, and then your key role and how that factors in with what you're doing.
Yeah, Africa Strong was founded by two individuals who volunteered in the program where I volunteered in Zambia. And so they returned, Emily and Diego, from their volunteer time in Zambia and wanted to continue giving back. So it was founded in 2016 as a way to continue to support education in Zambia and or across Africa. And so when I returned from Uganda, the president of the Rotary Club that I had joined had taken me to his primary school where he had gone with his siblings. His dad had been the principal, his mom had taught there, and I had started fundraising to help build up the conditions of the school because it was run down. And so I reconnected with Emily and Diego and said, I have an interest in doing some fundraising. How did you start Africa Strong? Give me some guidance. And they said, let's join forces. And over the last 5 years, they said, here's Africa Strong. You can continue to drive it and grow it and build it out. And so over the last 5 years, we've been evolving and growing Africa Strong to focus on improving the quality of education across sub-Saharan Africa. Our biggest footprint is in Uganda, where we focus on empowering teachers through teacher professional development, making safe and inclusive learning environments through infrastructure projects, which go as far as safe water, sanitation, classrooms, computers, learning materials. And then the third is empowering girls to stay in school. And our biggest project there is, in the past, it's been providing reusable menstruation kits. As we move forward, we're looking at more sustainable solutions. So we're looking at creating income generating projects, one of which will be doing skill development for students to build or create and make their own reusable menstruation kits and then sell them to other schools and women in the community.
It's quite impressive.
Yeah. How often do you go back and forth, or is most of your work here on the fundraising side, or are you there a lot as well still?
So yeah, it's a lot there as well. Was just there in May to do a needs assessment. We've mainly focused on one school and have had some successes there. Reduced teacher absenteeism from 40% to 5%. We've built bathrooms, showers, expanded dormitories, an eco-friendly kitchen. We provided home study materials while students were out of school. We provided textbooks for the primary 7 students when they came back from the longest school closure due to COVID. They were out of school for 20 months. I'm missing a few things, but through all that, with the work we've done, we've increased the enrollment at the school about 200 students and improved the learning outcomes. So this past year, each year, primary school students at primary 7 to get into secondary school have to take a primary leaving exam. And 68% of our students received top marks compared to 14%, which is the national average. And all students were in the top 2 marks, which is pretty unheard of. So we're trying to take that model now. Thank you. Trying to take that model now, and we're working with the district education officer and following his guidance on the biggest needs across the district so that we can ensure that students aren't all flocking to one school and that we're causing more problems by overcrowding one school
Yeah.
and that we're doing work at the different schools and addressing the biggest needs.
That's wonderful. Have you found like what that ratio from like children to teacher, like is there for every like is it like 20 some children or is it higher than that to one teacher?
It's still probably around 40, maybe higher even. So the government in Uganda pays for one teacher per 55 students. But that
Okay.
payment includes the head teacher and the deputy head teacher. So the ratio is actually higher. So a lot of the schools then go hire private teachers to help try to reduce, but their schooling is free. So there's not a lot of income coming into schools to pay private teachers. And so that's kind of the focus is with the income generating projects as we move forward is to help offset that, as well as when we do infrastructure projects that they have money to help maintain the buildings after the renovations are done, so that there isn't in a 5-10 years another major overall need it, that the buildings are maintained better as they have income coming into their schools to do that work.
Okay. We have just a few minutes left, and I think it'd be important to share a story. Like share a story with us quick on if you can, the like since going back over there and just seeing the impact, something that's been impactful for you.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is last March, I had my dad and 6 other family members travel with us, and we ended up at Bagniewski Primary School as well as a couple other schools. And we did the safaris, we did gorilla trekking, and as impressive and once in a lifetime opportunities those were, I think what left the biggest impact and mark on all of us was delivering books and visiting the schools. And for me to see that after having spent the time there and maybe adapting a little more and not being more sensitized to it, being able to step back and see their reaction to the conditions and kids fighting over a pen and other things really left an impact on me to be able to take that step back and remember the work that has been done and the transformation that has been made, and knowing the impact that we're having.
It's the little things.
Yeah, that's really incredible. And I love that you had family members come with you. So I actually have like the next section or segment, I have a follow-up question to what you just shared here in this story. But that was really incredible. Thank you. I can imagine that, when you
look at you in the teasers. Good job.
I know. Yes. Thank you for that story, Erin. As a reminder, you are listening to Searching for Service. I'm Kelly Kirk.
I'm Joe Kirk.
And I'm Chad Larson. We'll be back.
Hello and welcome back to Searching for Service, brought to you by Rotary District 5950 and 5960. I'm Kelly Kirk.
And I'm Joe Kirk.
And I'm Chad Larson.
As a reminder, you can find us on your favorite podcast platforms, and
look us up by inputting Searching for Service.
It's literally right there.
I know, it's called reading left or right. Group words together.
Professional, aren't we, Chad?
It's a struggle. I screw it up. I was happy you gave it to him. We didn't think about the searching part when I figured out the name Searching for Service.
I know, right?
And it wasn't going to be inputting for service. So,
yeah. My goodness. Well, if you are tuning in for the first time, we are in our third segment here for Searching for Service with special guest Erin Bagniewski. She is the executive director of Africa Strong, also a fellow Rotarian with MERC, Minneapolis University Rotary Club. Now, in that last segment, Erin, you shared, you squeezed in a story about a trip to Uganda, family members that had come with you, and the impact that had on your heart, like really pulling at your heartstrings, right? And so, my question for you is coming into this next segment because we want to talk about the successes and the challenges. My first question, I promise, this will all come full circle. So now that you have had family members come with you and have active like service, right? They're doing this, community service, if you will, a little bit more than that. Are they Rotarians too now? No.
No family. I've struggled
Okay.
recruiting Rotarians.
Okay.
I have
Gotcha.
recruited a lot of my family around the La Crosse area to collect books from different schools, and they're going to do book drives at their organizations to donate for Books for Africa, however.
Okay.
Well, I mean,
So
the
there's
whole
support.
the whole point of this show is to appeal to both Rotarians and non-Rotarians.
Yes.
It's service is service. It doesn't really matter who you do it with. We just believe that
Yep.
Rotary
Yeah.
is the best vehicle to do it.
100%. So I promised I would bring this full circle with like asking that question, but tying
Feels
in with
more
our
like a rhombus.
successes and challenges. So when you were over there, how was that, having your family tied in with that service project for I'm forgetting like the name of it now, but what successes did you see out of that? And then was it easier to do it with family? Was it more challenging to do it with family? And now let's roll into the successes and challenges. There you go, full circle. A little bit.
Yeah, I think generally speaking, even successes and challenges of being a volunteer, running a small nonprofit is you do rely on a lot of family and friends. And so a success to be able to have so much support with family and friends that, and I didn't mention when I lived there, 12 family and friends came to visit. So I've had about 12 family and friends to Uganda at this point. So
Nice.
I'd call that a success. And the first year that I got involved with Africa Strong, our donations, I think, went up 472%, I think is my quote. So I give family and friends a huge credit on that success. I think the challenge is family and friends can only go so far. And
Yes.
you can only continue to tap into and ask family and friends so much. And so over the last year and a half, we have not done as many projects because I have spent a lot of time trying to grow and expand the board and our network. And so Africa Strong has turned over our board in the last year. Thanks a lot to volunteermatch.org. Have found some amazing board members. And then through a lot of networking, I had gotten connected to a lot of amazing women volunteering, running nonprofits, facing a lot of the same challenges I was. And so just about a year ago, we met for coffee for the first time. And we are now collaborating, and our 7 of us are hosting a fundraiser on October 13th. So we are
Nice.
having doors open that individually none of us would have ever been able to have open. And while there's different challenges with working together when we all have day jobs and are still running our own nonprofits and involved in a lot of other service activities as individuals, and then throwing on top of that our collaboration, it's, like I said, creating opportunities that none of us would have been able to have. And it's giving us that encouragement and support and sounding board that we didn't have before.
Are the group that you collaborate with, are you guys all very similar nonprofit organizations or different? And
Yeah, all very similar. We range in size a little. So everything from Africa Classroom Connection, which builds classrooms in South Africa, Project Lolo, which works with education of individuals with disabilities.
I know her.
Love it. She is a Rotarian in the
Leslie?
University of Minneapolis Rotary Club, and
Leslie?
yes,
Oh,
yes. So
thank goodness. I'm so happy I'm happy she found a Rotary Club.
yes.
Wonderful.
Maybe you'll have to come to our event and
I will. Sorry,
another lady.
that, like, I was like, I know exactly who you're talking about. Yes, yes.
Sanitation and literacy in Ghana, her arts and action in Burkina Faso, holistic ministry of children in the Horn of Africa in Ethiopia. They build schools, do teacher professional development. But yes, all kind of a woman education, literacy, empowerment focus across all of us.
So that has to be really helpful that you guys can steal a ton of ideas from one another, and because it is very collaborative and analogous. That's a really creative way to leverage each other, because I'm sure scaling is probably all of your most difficult challenge, right?
Yep. Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah, we, like I said, doors that would have never opened before. We have people who we'll see where it goes, but have said that this is unique, innovative, not something they've seen before. And so maybe not getting all the sponsorships we've won it yet, but feel like the long
Preach
game
on, sister,
is
preach on.
there. Feel like the long game is there. We're in it for the long haul.
100%.
Tell us more about the fundraiser and how people can get involved.
Yeah, so the fundraiser is October 13th at the Dovetail Building in Minneapolis. It's in the Bryn Mawr neighborhood. Be from 5:30 to 8:30. It's an open house. You can find us under Her Arts in Action on social media. And again, just open house. We'll have heavy appetizers from a Tanzanian lady catering company. Have wine from a local Minnesotan wine company, and then beer from a brewery in New York that is a Burkina Faso beer. And so, and then auction items, and auction will be online. So you don't have to be at the event to bid on the auction. All that's out on the website that you can find through social media and all of that. So
quick sidebar. What does it mean, heavy appetizer? It's the second time this week I've seen the term heavy appetizer.
I put on events, I can tell you.
Chicken wings.
Got it.
Samosas. So it could count as a meal.
Okay.
Light would be like chips, popcorn.
Okay.
Peanuts.
Literally. I mean, that's when you're working on that kind of stuff. Like that's kind of
I love it. Heavy apps.
Not
heavy,
to derail
heavy
the conversation.
orders.
I'm like, what is the heavy? Isn't that an entree?
It's appetizer food, but can count as a meal, I think, is how I would describe it.
That's how I'm going to start describing my overeating. Is I had many heavy appetizers.
Oh my gosh.
Anyway,
has the Rotary supported, or has it been more of a network for you? Has on the local level or other levels different clubs supported you?
Haven't actually tapped into that, which probably is an oversight on our part.
Interesting. Well, you're out of an interesting platform that goes out to not only 5950 but 5960. It seems like something that is very much in line with a lot of other projects that go on. I mean, we talked a little bit offline about how Rotary does a lot of work with World Vision. We just had a ton of stuff, and it's in Uganda, is it not? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So it's
where Lloyd was leaving.
Lloyd is literally
I was going to say
on a plane probably to Uganda right now. So, I mean,
and for our listeners, just to kind of tie this up so you understand who we're talking about, Lloyd Campbell, who was the former district governor of 5950. And he is who got us connected to Erin Bagniewski. So,
well, and you want to talk about some extra value to this show, all those out there listening, we're going to connect some dots here. We're going to make some things happen.
Love it.
Well, and I think your previous guest, Kyle Hagen,
Yep.
Mhm.
we know each other because I went to college with his cousin and hadn't seen each other in about 20 years until he popped up on my Facebook standing in pictures with members from the Rotary Club of Emberara.
And
I was
you're like,
what are you doing there with my past fellow Rotarians?
That's
Amazing.
so cool. We're really excited to jump into this next segment and talk about vision for Africa Strong, Erin. So stay tuned, everyone. You are listening to Searching for Service. I'm Kelly Kirk.
I'm Joe Kirk.
And I'm Chad Larson. We'll be back.
Hello and welcome back to Searching for Service, brought to you by Rotary District 5950 and 5960. I am Kelly Kirk.
I'm Joe Kirk.
And I'm Chad Larson.
As a reminder, you can find us on your favorite podcast platforms, and
You can find us by looking up Searching for Service.
We're also on YouTube. You can find our channel at Searching for Service.
Look at that. Like, comment, share, do all that good jazz.
Subscribe.
5
Subscribe.
gold stars.
Ring the bell.
We are in our last segment here with Searching for Service with our guest, Erin Bagniewski, who's the Executive Director of Africa Strong and member of MARC. That's the Minneapolis University Rotary Club. We love to finalize everything in this last segment talking about vision for the future, vision for Africa Strong, vision for what service is going to look like for you, Erin, as well. And so I think we should start with Africa Strong. Let's start there. And then we can end on a high note with visions for your service moving forward.
Yeah, I have a lot of visions for Africa Strong. My goal would to be get it, fund it, and make it my full-time job. I had gone a year without a full-time job. I was substitute teaching, driving for DoorDash, doing things to pay the bills in between contract work, and just
I commend you, by the way.
contract job this week. Yay. But the whole time trying to, substitute teaching, never again. But trying to do what I could to help grow Africa Strong, and had many people who have been in the industry say normally they tell people to stay as volunteers, but they see something different with Africa Strong. And so that's been my motivation to keep going, and would talk to people about the type of work I was looking for when I was looking for contract work, and then talk about Africa Strong. And the reaction was always, no, you need to figure out how to get Africa Strong funded, because that's where your heart is, that's where your passion is.
Yeah.
And I was working 40, 60-hour weeks between Rotary and Books for Africa and Africa Strong without having a paid job. So the vision is really to make it sustainable and take the model of what we've done and learn from it and grow. Working to expand our teacher professional development, whether that's bringing in an organization out of South Africa that we're in conversations with, but doing that through the local teacher professional or the teacher college and the university in Uganda. Hopefully getting grants, but also setting up, like I talked about earlier, the income generating projects at schools so that they have a source of funding, and then doing projects through grants and a small source of loans, that there's more ownership and accountability for the schools as they move forward. And then doing work to keep girls in school. So we have a big agenda, and I sometimes bite off more than I can chew, but have started to
get it done.
Yeah. Started to build a team around us. And I don't know, Makerere University in Uganda reached out wanting to collaborate on a grant. And so potentially opportunities and some funding there. And so,
do you know what the number is that you need for sustainable funding to accomplish all of those goals? Do you know the dollar amount?
Over the next 5 years, probably $500,000.
There you go. Hear that, universe? 500K.
Huh.
You can do that.
Probably gone bigger.
She
I've
Think
actually-
about the
like, I
salary
meant
there and me and the projects.
$750,000.
$1 million. Oh, I'm sorry. You meant
there is something I'm gonna go a little woo woo here, but magical about putting that stuff out into the universe, and especially on the radio airwaves. So I mean, watch out what happens, Erin. You just never know.
Erin, I mean, there's Rotary grants. There's money all over the place. It's just,
How do you find it?
How to
Uganda's a little interesting on how they do Rotary grants. They have to control the money and everything there. So we're trying to overcome some challenges right now.
Yeah.
To get a grant going there, but it makes the funding a little smaller for the grants there. But yes, we're trying to do some Rotary grants to help a little there as well. But
just ask the question, what needs to be true?
Yes. But again, so challenges, but we're always ready for an uphill battle. So
that's right.
Yes.
That's so cool.
I know you mentioned the social media site. Do you have a website too?
Yes. africastrong.org.
Clever.
I was gonna say most nonprofits on the .org.
Yeah, it makes it easier.
Mhm.
And for the fundraiser, I just want to make sure I'll post this all in the description when we upload it. But is the fundraising info on there, or they need to go to the social media page?
I can email you the direct link.
And I'll put it all on and for anybody that's listening, you'll be able to find it on the show page, all the information and links. So if you're interested in supporting, whether you can make it or not, the information will be there.
How can people get involved?
Through the my email is probably the best way to get involved. Otherwise, on the website there is a contact us. We are always looking for volunteers, whether it's project management help to social media, fundraising, grant research. We have projects galore. Have had everything from a high school student to some local individuals who are part of the Uganda diaspora community getting involved now. And so it's just fun. Some are helping us write Google Classroom training to go with the Chromebooks that we've been donating. Others are researching internet options and offline solutions to get the Google Chromebooks more usable in rural areas, and to help get them up and running, to researching where we can get fabric to ship on a container to Uganda because we can't source it and find it in Uganda. So
Fascinating.
We have opportunities kind of all over the board and stuff that helped me immensely, that I don't need to run down, and I can focus on some of the other logistical and administrative stuff.
Erin, we didn't even ask this up front, but as you were growing up in our great city of La Crosse, Wisconsin, was service like always a part of who you were innately? Were you doing stuff around the La Crosse area or in that tri-metro area?
Some, and I think as much just my parents and how they raised us. My dad does a lot of volunteering around the community now. My mom gets involved in a lot of organizations and gives back. And so still kind of watch them as examples in what they do.
Cool. And now they're watching you as an example too, going over to Uganda.
And they've both been, my dad twice.
It's a trip of a lifetime. That's incredible.
Well, a quick La Crosse story for you. My
Love these.
Alan, who was the president of the Rotary Club when I joined, and our NGO partner in Uganda, was just here in Minneapolis for a week, but we spent half the time in La Crosse.
Oh,
So
okay.
Of course, we visited the world's largest six-pack.
Of course. Oh my gosh.
Well, I think he was
Never done the
impressed.
because I've
World's
never done it.
largest
But
six-pack. What the
my
heck?
my mom used to work at what was formerly known as Highlands, right? So
Correct.
she used to work there. Yeah.
We just lost half our audience because they're like, we're talking about Wisconsin?
I
Come
know.
on.
Well, I can bring it back to Rotary. I think
There
he
we
was
go.
most impressed. We were walking down the street and there was a mobile clinic with Rotary logo all over it. And we had to cross the street and go have his picture taken in front of that. So,
Oh, very
Yeah.
cool.
Now this was in La Crosse.
mhm.
Oh my gosh. I mean, La Crosse isn't that big, so actually doesn't surprise me.
You said it, man.
What you just kind of briefly breezed over, but I think our listeners may be interested. The Books for Africa program that you're involved with Rotary. Can you tell us? I mean, I'm sure it's collections of books, but where people can donate and a little bit
Yeah.
about that.
Yeah, Books for
In
Africa.
1 minute.
Books for Africa has a warehouse here in St. Paul. They take new and used books. Books should be culturally sensitive within the last 15 years. It's kind of a do and a don't. They'll take books from schools as well. You can always find their website and reach out if you have questions. But they just celebrated, I should say, we just celebrated our 35th anniversary. And over the last 35 years have shipped almost 60 billion books to the continent of Africa.
Was that a B billion?
Billion.
Million.
Oh,
Million.
I was going to say, holy smokes.
No,
That's
I
still a
mean,
lot.
there's still 400 million children in Africa, so still a lot more books to
Yeah.
get in the hands of kids, but world's largest, across the U.S., largest shipper of books to the continent of Africa.
Wow.
Beautiful. Well, Erin, it has truly been an honor to have you on Searching for Service. And
you're
One-
all tuned up for your TV interview now.
yes. Oh my gosh, that's right.
You killed it. You did great.
You did awesome. Thank you so much, Erin. We appreciate you coming on and talking to Africa Strong and how people can get involved. It was such an honor to have you on.
Thank you for having me. You made it super fun and
Good.
easy to chat. I enjoyed it.
We love it. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for tuning in to Searching for Service. I'm Kelly Kirk.
I'm Joe Kirk.
And I'm Chad Larson.
It's time to stop searching
And start serving.